The year is 2157. Earth has been under the iron grip of the Tagrian Dominion for 30 years, their massive crystalline ships having appeared without warning over major cities. Marcus Chen, a brilliant engineer, works in the alien processing facilities in the ruins of Seattle. While repairing a quantum communication device, Marcus accidentally discovers the Tagrians have a neurological vulnerability to specific sound frequencies. His heart races as he carefully documents his findings while avoiding the notice of the mantis-like Tagrian supervisors. The stakes become personal when his sister Leia is selected for enhancement procedures at an orbital facility. That night, as automated drones patrol the worker barracks, Marcus makes a decision that will change humanity's future. He slips away from his assigned quarters, a forbidden recording device clutched in his trembling hand. The recycled air of the processing facility felt cold against Marcus's skin as he navigated the dimly lit maintenance corridors. Every shadow made him flinch. Every distant sound of Tagrian mandibles clicking sent ice through his veins. 3 decades of occupation had taught humans the price of defiance. The scars across his back, punishment for a miscalibrated assembly line last year, still ached in the damp Seattle climate. He paused at an intersection, pressing himself against the wall as a patrol drone hummed past. These spherical machines, with their arrays of sensors and paralytic needles, were programmed to detect unauthorized movement. Marcus had learned their patterns over months of careful observation, noting the slight power fluctuation that preceded their sensor suites. The quantum communication device he'd secretly modified weighed heavily in his pocket. Standard procedure required all tools to be returned and accounted for at shift end, but he'd created a phantom entry in the system, making the device appear properly stored while he'd slipped it into his worker coveralls. If discovered, the punishment would be severe, possibly termination. The Tagrians didn't waste resources on humans who violated security protocols. Marcus reached the processing sector where he'd first discovered the Tagrian vulnerability. 3 days ago, while realigning a frequency modulator, he'd accidentally triggered a specific resonance pattern that caused the supervising Tagrian to drop to the floor, its limbs twitching uncontrollably. The alien recovered quickly, attributing the episode to an environmental anomaly. But Marcus had seen the truth. Something about that specific frequency affected their neural pathways. Now he needed proof. The central processing chamber stood empty during night cycle, its rows of crystalline computers pulsing with faint blue light. Marcus worked swiftly, connecting his modified device to the main console. His fingers, calloused from years of forced labor, moved with practiced precision as he initiated a scan across the spectrum he'd identified. The screen flickered with data streams. Most humans couldn't read Tagrian script, but Marcus had taught himself during repair assignments, carefully memorizing symbols and their meanings. When the scan reached 172.4 Hz, the system registered a peculiar pattern, a drop in neural efficiency among Tagrian operators within range of the test signal. Not enough to cause pain or incapacitation at this low power, but definitively showing sensitivity. "This is it," Marcus whispered to himself, his voice barely audible. He transferred the data to his device, heart pounding so loudly he feared the security systems might detect it. A sudden noise from the corridor froze him in place. The distinct sound of Tagrian appendages clicking against the metal floor approached. Marcus disconnected his device and slid beneath the console just as the chamber door hissed open. Through a narrow gap, he could see the lower body of a Tagrian supervisor, its chitinous legs reflecting the blue console lights. The alien paused, mandibles twitching as it scanned the room. Marcus held his breath, knowing their sensory capabilities far exceeded human baselines. The Tagrian moved to the console, extended a spindly limb, and adjusted something on the surface. After an excruciating moment, it turned and exited. Marcus waited 5 full minutes before emerging from his hiding place. His muscles ached from the tension, but the precious data was secure. Now he needed to return to the barracks before his absence was noticed during the midnight headcount. As he navigated back through the maintenance tunnels, His thoughts turned to Leia. His sister's technical aptitude had caught the attention of the Tagrian overseers. Tomorrow, she would be transported to the orbital facility for enhancement procedures, a euphemism that made his blood run cold. No human selected for enhancement had ever returned unchanged. The few who came back moved differently, spoke differently, their personalities hollowed out and replaced with unquestioning compliance. The worker barracks loomed ahead, a gray concrete structure resembling ancient prisons more than living quarters. Marcus slipped through a maintenance hatch he'd carefully modified to bypass the security seal. Inside, the sounds of restless sleep filled the crowded space. Hundreds of humans packed into tiered bunks, their dreams the only place the Tagrians couldn't yet reach. Leah was awake when he reached her bunk, her eyes red-rimmed from crying. At 24, she was 6 years younger than Marcus, but the harsh conditions of Tagrian labor camps had aged her beyond her years. "They're coming for me at dawn," she whispered. Marcus grasped her hand, feeling the calluses that mirrored his own. "No, they're not," he replied, revealing the device in his palm. "I found something, Leah, something that changes everything." Her eyes widened as he explained his discovery, hope flickering in them for the first time in years. "But who can we tell?" she asked. "Who would even believe us?" Marcus smiled grimly. "There are rumors of a resistance, people who haven't given up. We need to find them before your transport arrives." Outside, the first hints of dawn began to lighten the sky. Somewhere above the clouds, the massive Tagrian mothership hung in low orbit, a constant reminder of humanity's subjugation. But for the first time in 30 years, Marcus felt something stronger than fear. He felt hope. Marcus navigates through the ruins of Seattle, evading Tagrian sensors until he reaches an abandoned art gallery. Here, resistance members exchange information through paintings that contain hidden patterns invisible to Tagrian eyes. Former astronaut Kamala Okafor, her face bearing scars from Tagrian punishment devices, evaluates Marcus's discovery with cautious hope. They test the frequency weapon on a captured Tagrian drone, watching in amazement as it spasms and deactivates. Across devastated cities, the resistance establishes makeshift workshops in subway tunnels and storm drains. They repurpose discarded alien tech, transforming ordinary music players into weapons. Meanwhile, Regional Overseer Krall notices discrepancies in the neural networks monitoring human activities. At his fortress towering over the remains of Chicago, Krall orders stricter curfews and increased biometric scans, unaware that the seeds of rebellion have already taken root. Dawn brought with it the whine of Tagrian transport vessels preparing for their morning rounds. Marcus and Leia slipped through the barracks waste disposal system, a route Marcus had scouted weeks earlier but never dared use until now. The smell was overwhelming, but the Tagrians' sensitivity to human waste meant the area remained largely unmonitored. "Stay low," Marcus whispered as they emerged into the ruins of what had once been Seattle's art district. 30 years of Tagrian occupation had transformed the city. Ancient buildings stood alongside alien structures of crystalline material that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. Overhead, patrol drones crisscrossed the sky in perfect geometric patterns. Leah clutched the small bag containing her few possessions. "The transport will be at the assembly point in 2 hours. When they don't find me, we'll be long gone by then," Marcus assured her, though uncertainty gnawed at him. The rumors of a resistance had been just that, rumors, whispers among workers, quickly silenced whenever Tagrian supervisors approached. They navigated through collapsed buildings and overgrown streets, ducking behind rubble whenever drones passed overhead. Marcus consulted a hand-drawn map he'd compiled from fragments of information gathered over months. The abandoned Fremont Gallery should be 3 blocks ahead, marked by a statue of 2 hands reaching skyward. When they reached the location, disappointment crushed through Marcus. The gallery was nothing but a hollowed shell, its walls crumbling, its entrance sealed with debris. "This can't be it," Leia said, desperation edging her voice. Marcus examined the statue. weathered but intact. Something about it seemed off. The hands weren't reaching up as his informant had described. They were pointing, ever so subtly, to the building next door. A former coffee shop, its windows boarded, a faded sign still visible. "There," Marcus said, pulling Laia toward the shop. Inside, dust covered everything, but the floor showed recent footprints. Marcus pressed against the back wall, feeling for irregularities. His fingers found a small indentation and pressed. With a soft hiss, a section of the wall slid open, revealing a narrow staircase descending into darkness. "Who goes there?" A harsh voice echoed from below, accompanied by the unmistakable sound of a weapon powering up. Marcus swallowed hard. "Workers seeking freedom. I have information about Takrian weakness." A long silence followed. Then, "Come down. Slowly. Any tracking devices, and you're both dead." They descended into a room that had once been a basement storage area, now transformed into a command center. Screens made from salvaged Takrian technology lined the walls, displaying surveillance feeds from around the city. A dozen people worked at various stations, their faces gaunt but determined. A tall woman approached them, her dark skin marked with distinctive scars that Marcus recognized immediately. Takrian neural whips left those patterns, used on humans who showed exceptional resistance. Only the strongest survived such punishment. "I'm Kamala Okafor," she said, her voice carrying the authority of someone used to command. Former NASA mission commander, now resistance coordinator for the Northwest sector. Marcus had heard her name in whispers, stories of the astronaut who'd fought back during the initial invasion, who'd somehow survived punishment that killed most humans. "I'm Marcus Chen, Engineering Division at Processing Center 7. This is my sister Leah. She's scheduled for enhancement transport this morning." Kamala's expression hardened. Enhancement. Their word for neural reconditioning. She gestured to a young man at a nearby console. "Raj, alert our people at the transport hub. Standard diversion protocol." She turned back to Marcus. "You mentioned information about Takrian weakness. We've been fighting for years with minimal success. Their technology is too advanced, their control too complete." Marcus produced his modified device. "They're vulnerable to specific sound frequencies. I discovered it by accident while repairing their quantum communication systems." Skepticism crossed Kamala's face, but she led them to a sealed chamber at the back of the room. Inside, secured to a metal frame, was a disabled Takrian patrol drone, its spherical body dented from capture. "We've been studying their tech, trying to find vulnerabilities," Kamala explained. "Show me this weakness." With trembling hands, Marcus connected his device to the drone's neural interface. He calibrated the frequency to 172.4 Hz and activated a low-power pulse. Immediately, the drone's systems flickered to life, then convulsed with erratic energy spikes before shutting down completely. The neural pathways, visible through the drone's transparent access panel, had overloaded. Kamala stared in stunned silence. Then a smile, the first real smile Marcus had seen in years, transformed her scared face. "Do it again," she said. After 3 more demonstrations, Kamala called her lieutenants together. Maps were spread out, plans formulated. Laia's transport was only the first concern. With this new weapon, they could disrupt Takrian operations across the sector. "We have cells in every major city," Kamala explained, pointing to locations on a faded map of North America. Underground workshops in subway tunnels, storm drains, abandoned buildings. "We've been collecting discarded Takrian tech for years, repurposing it. With this frequency vulnerability, we can convert ordinary music players into weapons." For the first time in decades, Marcus felt something like excitement. How many people are in the resistance? "Not enough," Kamala admitted, but that's about to change. Across the continent, in what had once been Chicago, Regional Overseer Krall reviewed neural network monitoring data with growing concern. Subtle discrepancies suggested coordinated human activities outside approved parameters. His mandibles clicked in irritation as he dictated new orders: stricter curfews, increased biometric scans, enhanced drone surveillance. The Tachrian Empire had conquered 12 species across 8 star systems. Humans were merely the latest addition. Troublesome, but ultimately manageable. Or so Krell believed, unaware that the first real threat to Tachrian dominance was already spreading through hidden networks, one frequency at a time. Marcus infiltrates the gleaming Tachrian headquarters in New York, slipping past guards by mimicking the shuffling gait of human servants broken by years of conditioning. While searching for information about his sister's whereabouts, he overhears 2 Tachrians arguing. Junior Administrator Vex shows obvious distress at reports of human mortality rates, something Marcus thought impossible from their emotionless oppressors. When guards approach, Vex unexpectedly shields Marcus from detection. The alien reveals that a growing faction of younger Tachrians questions the ethics of subjugating sentient beings. Marcus takes a calculated risk and shares information about the resistance. Vex provides access codes for orbital facilities and patrol schedules. Back at Resistance headquarters, Kamala tests Vex's intelligence by launching a small raid on a supply depot. The attack succeeds flawlessly, yielding precious technology and medical supplies. The Resistance discovers another advantage. While Tachrians possess superior technology, their rigid, hierarchical thinking cannot adapt to the chaotic, creative tactics humans employ. 2 weeks after joining the Resistance, Marcus found himself in the shadow of the imposing Tachrian administrative headquarters in New York. The structure rose like a crystalline spire from the ruins of what had once been Manhattan, its surfaces refracting sunlight into prismatic patterns designed to disorient human perception. Around its base, damaged human servants shuffled through their duties, their spirits broken by neural conditioning. Remember, don't make eye contact, Kamala had instructed during his briefing. Keep your movements slow and methodical. Enhancement-conditioned servants never hurry. Marcus adjusted the servant's gray uniform they'd scavenged from a dead worker. The identification chip implanted in his wrist still burned from Raj's hasty surgery. It would broadcast the identity of a known conditioned servant, allowing him limited access to the lower levels where central communication servers were housed. The main entrance loomed ahead, guarded by towering Tachrian sentries whose chidness armor gleamed in the morning light. Marcus lowered his gaze and adjusted his posture, mimicking the shuffling gait of conditioned workers he'd observed. His heart hammered against his ribs, but his face remained blank, expression carefully emptied. The sentries barely glanced at him as their scanners registered his implanted chip. Once inside, Marcus navigated through vast atriums where hundreds of humans worked under Tachrian supervision, their movements mechanical, their eyes vacant. The sight twisted his stomach. Many of these workers had undergone the same enhancement process Leia had narrowly escaped. Following memorized blueprints, Marcus descended to Sublevel 3, where communication servers maintained connections with orbital facilities. His mission was straightforward: place a modified transmitter that would intercept facility coordinates and access protocols. With that information, the Resistance could potentially rescue humans taken for enhancement. As he rounded a corner, voices drifted from an open doorway ahead. Not human voices, but the distinctive clicking speech of Tachrians. Marcus pressed himself against the wall, prepared to retreat, but the unusual tone of the conversation froze him in place. The mortality rates are unacceptable, Senior Administrator. The voice sounded younger, its clicks less pronounced than typical Tachrian speech. 43% of subjects fail to survive the enhancement process. This is inefficient resource management. Your concern for human survival statistics is noted. Junior Administrator Vex replied a deeper, more resonant voice. But may I remind you that the Dominion classifies humans as exploitable resources, not sentient beings worthy of ethical consideration. The classification is flawed. Their neural complexity equals our pre-ascension ancestors. Their creativity. Your generation's fascination with human creativity borders on obsession. The architect's guidance is clear. Creativity without control leads to chaos. We enhance what is useful, discard what is not. Marcus edged closer, risking a glance through the doorway. Two Tecreans stood by a holographic display showing human neural scans. The larger one, clearly the senior administrator, towered over his subordinate, mandibles flexing in a gesture Marcus recognized as irritation. The younger Tecrean, presumably Vex, had lighter coloration, suggesting recent maturation. Suddenly, a security alert chimed. Marcus jerked back, but not quickly enough. Vex's compound eyes swiveled toward the doorway, locking onto Marcus's partially visible form. "Security breach in Section 7, announced an automated voice. "Human presence detected in restricted area." Marcus turned to flee but found his path blocked by approaching security drones. He was trapped. To his astonishment, Vex emerged from the room and moved between Marcus and the corridor where drone signatures registered on the security panel. "Disregard the alert," Vex commanded, manipulating the control surface with rapid movements. "Sensor malfunction. This human is my assigned data collection assistant." The senior administrator emerged, compound eyes shifting between Vex and Marcus. "I authorized no human assistant for you." "The requisition was filed yesterday," Vex replied smoothly. "Central processing is experiencing delays due to the enhancement transport scheduling." After a tense moment, the senior administrator's mandibles clicked dismissively. "Your efficiency metrics have been exceptional, junior administrator. I will overlook this procedural irregularity. Ensure proper documentation is completed by cycle end." When the senior administrator departed, Vex turned to Marcus, compound eyes studying him with unnerving intensity. "You are not conditioned," Vex stated softly. "Your pupillary responses indicate fear, not submission. You are resistance." Marcus tensed, preparing to fight despite the futility. "I will not report you," Vex continued, mandibles moving in what might have been hesitation. "There are questions among my generation, about the ethics of subjugation, about the architect's guidance. We review historical data and find inconsistencies." Marcus stared in disbelief. "You're helping me. Why?" "Because perhaps the Dominion is wrong about humans. Perhaps we are wrong about many things." Vex moved to a terminal and extracted a crystal data node. "Orbital facility access codes, transport schedules, security protocols. Take this to your resistance. But understand, most Tecreans believe absolutely in our right to rule. I am anomalous." Back at Resistance headquarters, Kamala scrutinized the data with suspicion. "It could be a trap," she warned. "There's only one way to find out," Marcus replied. 3 days later, a small Resistance team executed a raid on a Tecrean supply depot, using Vex's security codes. They returned with medical supplies, weapons, and advanced technology. Success beyond their expectations. More importantly, they confirmed something remarkable. While Tecreans possessed vastly superior technology, their rigid, hierarchical thinking could not adapt to the chaotic, creative tactics humans employed. When the Resistance fighters deviated from expected attack patterns, the Tecrean defenders faltered, unable to improvise effective responses. For the first time, humanity had found not just a physical weakness in their oppressors, but a cognitive one. And with Vex's unexpected alliance, they had gained something even more valuable: insight into the Tecrean mind. With Vex's access codes, the Resistance seizes a small Tecrean shuttle. Marcus leads a team to the orbital facility, their pulses pounding as they don stolen Tecrean atmospheric suits. Inside the sterile white halls, they find hundreds of humans suspended in transparent chambers. Marcus locates Laia, her head partly shaved and marked with surgical guidelines. As alarms blare, they free as many captives as possible. A horrifying truth emerges. The Tecreans have been studying human creativity. Attempting to extract and replicate this trait, they both envy and fear. Among the rescued prisoners are military strategists, engineers, and scientists whose skills strengthen the Resistance exponentially. On Earth, Kamala orchestrates simultaneous attacks on Takrian communication hubs using sound weapons, temporarily blinding their network. Regional Overseer Crowl watches in disbelief as humans exhibit coordination and strategy he deemed impossible for primitive minds. He orders all settlement lockdowns while frantically requesting reinforcements from the Dominion homeworld. The Takrian shuttle rested on a hidden landing pad deep in the Appalachian wilderness, its crystalline hull gleaming under camouflage netting. For 3 weeks, resistance technicians had worked to understand its systems, guided by information from Vex. Now, as dawn tinged the eastern sky, Marcus stood at the entry ramp with 11 others, all that could fit in the small craft. "Remember, we have a 90-minute window," Kamala said, handing Marcus a modified communication device. "After that, we can't guarantee the distraction will hold their attention." Marcus nodded, feeling the weight of responsibility. Their target was Orbital Facility 7, where humans selected for enhancement underwent the procedure. Intelligence from Vex suggested nearly 300 captives were currently held there, including dozens recently transported from Seattle. "The sonic disruptors are untested at close range against multiple Takrians," Raj warned, adjusting the weapon strapped to Marcus's belt. "They might cause permanent neural damage rather than temporary incapacitation." "If it comes to that, I won't hesitate," Marcus replied, thinking of the vacant eyes of enhanced humans he'd seen in the administrative complex. Leah approached, her face grim. Since narrowly escaping enhancement herself, she had thrown herself into resistance work. "Be careful," she said, embracing her brother, "and bring them home." The 12 operatives boarded the shuttle, taking positions as they'd practiced in simulations. Sarah Kim, a former commercial pilot who'd been retrained on Takrian flight systems by Vex, activated the controls. The craft hummed to life, rising silently through the trees before accelerating toward the upper atmosphere. "Transponder active," announced Michael Okonkwo, monitoring communications. "We're broadcasting the authentication codes," Orbital Control acknowledges. Marcus gazed through the view screen as Earth fell away beneath them. The curvature of the planet became visible, its surface marred by the crystalline hubs of Takrian occupation centers. In low orbit, massive Takrian vessels hung like predatory insects, their angular forms blocking out the stars. "Orbital Facility 7 coming into visual range," Sarah reported. Docking approach initiated. The facility resembled a vast wheel, its central hub connecting to radiating arms that rotated slowly to generate artificial gravity. As they approached, Marcus could see Takrian shuttles moving between the facility and the larger ships. "Docking control is requesting verification," Michael said, tension evident in his voice. "Transmit the secondary code sequence Vex provided," Marcus ordered. A tense moment passed before Michael nodded. "Accepted. We're cleared to dock at Medical Transport Bay 14. The shuttle slid smoothly into a crystalline docking port, locking mechanisms engaging with a soft click. Marcus distributed the atmospheric suits that modify from scavenged Takrian equipment. The helmets were designed to obscure human features while approximating Takrian sensory arrays. "Move in pairs," Marcus instructed as they prepared to disembark. "First objective is to locate the holding chambers. Second is to identify the central control systems for the enhancement process. If possible, we download all research data before setting charges." The team moved through the airlock into the facility. The interior was bathed in harsh blue light that cast everything in an alien glow. Marcus led the way, following the map Vex had provided. They passed several Takrians who paid them little attention, assuming they were authorized personnel in environmental suits. When they reached the central section, a vast circular chamber opened before them. Marcus froze at the sight. Hundreds of transparent cylinders lined the walls, each containing a suspended human. Tubes and wires connected to their bodies, while their faces remained eerily serene in unconsciousness. "God help us," whispered Sarah beside him. Marcus moved to the nearest control terminal, interfacing his device as Vex had shown him. Information flooded the screen: names, acquisition dates, neural profiles. He searched for recently arrived captives from Seattle and found them in Sector 12. "This way," he said, his voice tight with urgency. They found the Seattle captives suspended in their chambers, still unconscious but unmarked by surgery. Marcus located the release mechanism and activated it for the first cylinder. The fluid drained away, and the transparent shell retracted, leaving a young woman gasping on the platform. "What? Where am I?" she choked out as Marcus helped her sit up. "You're in a Tacrean orbital facility," he explained quickly. "We're Resistance. We're getting you out." The team worked methodically, freeing captives while 2 members downloaded research data from the central computers. What they discovered horrified them. The Tacreans weren't merely subduing human resistance. They were systematically studying human creativity, attempting to extract and replicate this trait they both envied and feared. As the last captives were being freed, alarms suddenly blared throughout the facility. "Security breach detected in Medical Sector 12, announced an automated voice in the clicking Tacrean language. "We've been compromised," Michael shouted over the comm. Guards approaching from the main corridor. Marcus activated his sonic disruptor, setting it to maximum amplitude. When 3 Tacrean guards rounded the corner, he triggered the device. The effect was immediate and shocking. The aliens collapsed, their limbs spasming, neural systems overwhelmed by the targeted frequency. "Get everyone to the shuttle," Marcus ordered. "Now." On Earth, Kamala led the second phase of the operation. As the orbital rescue mission unfolded, resistance cells across North America launched simultaneous attacks on Tacrean communication hubs using sonic weapons. From his command center in Chicago, Regional Overseer Crowell watched in disbelief as system after system went offline. Human targets were exhibiting coordination and strategy he had deemed impossible for what he considered primitive minds. "Initiate full settlement lockdown," Crowell ordered his subordinates, "and send an emergency transmission to the Dominion homeworld. Request immediate reinforcements." But even as he spoke, the Resistance's sonic weapons temporarily blinded his primary communication network. For the first time in 30 years of occupation, the Tacreans had lost control. Using the captured shuttle and knowledge from both Vex and the rescued specialists, the Resistance enhances their sonic weapons. They discover that human ears naturally filter the harmful frequencies, granting them immunity where Tacreans suffer debilitating pain. Underground factories begin mass-producing these devices, while the Resistance broadcasts construction plans through art exhibitions and music performances. Across the globe, humans rise up in coordinated rebellion, wielding sound weapons against their oppressors. The rigid Tacrean command structure falters when their neural networks experience cascading failures. Marcus and Leia work with Vex to contact the dissident Tacrean faction, learning that other species have been subjugated across dozens of star systems. Regional Overseer Crowell transmits an emergency distress signal to the Dominion fleet, but Resistance hackers intercept and delay the message, buying precious time for the rebellion to strengthen its position. The underground command center beneath Old Chicago buzzed with frantic energy. 2 weeks had passed since the orbital facility raid, and the Resistance had swelled with the influx of rescued specialists. Among them was Dr. Elena Petrova, former head of acoustic engineering at MIT before the invasion. She stood at a workbench, surrounded by dismantled Tacrean technology and modified sound emitters. The breakthrough wasn't just identifying the harmful frequency, she explained to Marcus and Kamala, her fingers deftly adjusting components. It's understanding why it affects them, but not us. She activated a holographic display showing comparative neural scans, human and Tacrean. Their auditory processing system lacks the protective mechanisms humans evolved. Our ears naturally filter certain frequencies that their systems process directly into their neural pathways. "So we're immune to our own weapons?" Kamala asked. "Precisely," Elena confirmed. "We can safely operate at close range while Tacreans experience complete neural overload." Marcus examined the new weapon prototype, smaller, more powerful, and designed for mass production using salvaged Tacrean components. How quickly can we replicate these? Alina smiled. That's where our artistic friends come in. In a separate chamber, rescued artists and musicians collaborated with resistance technicians, embedding weapon schematics and assembly instructions into paintings, sculptures, and musical compositions. Techrians couldn't perceive certain visual frequencies or sound patterns the humans could easily discern, creating a perfect covert communication channel. We're distributing these through every human settlement, explained Maya Wong, a former gallery curator. Techrians dismiss art as primitive emotional expression. They never search it for technical information. The resistance had established makeshift factories in abandoned subway tunnels, storm drains, and remote wilderness bunkers. Workers converted everyday devices, music players, communication tools, even children's toys, into sonic weapons capable of incapacitating Techrian guards and disrupting their systems. Meanwhile, Marcus and Leia worked with Vex in a secure communication room, establishing contact with the growing dissident faction among younger Techrians. The movement grows stronger, Vex reported, his mandibles clicking with cautious optimism. Nearly 20% of new generation Techrians question the Dominion's subjugation policies. That's still a small minority, Leia noted. But strategically placed, Vex countered. Many serve in communication and coordination roles where they can subtly disrupt operations. Marcus studied the star charts Vex had provided. You mentioned other subjugated species across multiple systems. Could they rise up if they had the means? The Dominion controls 12 species across 37 star systems, Vex confirmed. All are monitored through the same neural network technology that governs Earth. If that network fails, we could trigger a galactic rebellion. Leia finished, eyes widening at the possibility. The resistance timed their global uprising with precision. On a day when Techrian neural networks underwent routine synchronization, information provided by Vex, humans across Earth activated their sonic weapons simultaneously. In the ruins of London, workers in processing centers turned hidden devices against their overseers. In Beijing's agricultural zones, farmers activated sonic emitters disguised as irrigation equipment. In Rio's mining operations, laborers unleashed frequencies that brought Techrian supervisors to their knees. The cascade effect exceeded the Resistance's most optimistic projections. As Techrian command centers experienced neural network disruptions, their rigid hierarchy collapsed. Unable to receive instructions from superiors, many Techrian units shut down completely, following protocols designed to prevent unauthorized action rather than adapting to circumstances. From his command center, Regional Overseer Krau watched in horror as control slipped away. Monitoring screens showed simultaneous uprisings across every continent, a coordination level he had believed impossible for humans. Transmit Emergency Protocol Alpha to Dominion Fleet Command, he ordered, his usually measured clicks now rapid with agitation. Earth sector requires immediate reinforcement. Full subjugation measures authorized. But even as his communication officers attempted to send the distress signal, resistance hackers using Vex's access codes intercepted and corrupted the transmission. What should have taken moments to reach Techrian command ships stretched into hours of delays and garbled data. In Chicago's resistance headquarters, Kamala received reports from global sectors with growing excitement. 73% of Earth's major Techrian installations report human control or ongoing conflict, she announced to cheers. We've reclaimed more territory in 6 hours than in 30 years of occupation. Marcus understood that their advantage was temporary. Once the Dominion realized what was happening, they would send overwhelming force. Their window to prepare was measured in days, perhaps weeks. We need to push our advantage beyond Earth, he told Kamala. If we can help other subjugated species rise up, the Dominion will be fighting on multiple fronts. That would require interstellar travel, Kamala pointed out. We have one stolen shuttle. Marcus smiled grimly. Then we need to steal more, starting with the orbital command ships. In those fateful hours, as humans reclaimed their planet one sonic burst at a time, the nature of the conflict transformed. What had begun as a desperate resistance became something the Tachrian Dominion had never faced in its 1,000-year expansion. A strategic rebellion with the potential to shatter an empire that spanned the stars. As Earth's humans seize more Tachrian vessels and facilities, they establish contact with other conquered species, the crystalline lumina, who communicate through light patterns, the methane-breathing Vosh, whose mathematical abilities outpace the most advanced human computers, and the shape-shifting Morph, masters of infiltration. Marcus and Kamala convene a summit aboard a liberated Tachrian station. Despite profound biological differences, the species find unity in their shared oppression. Each contributes unique strengths to the alliance. The Lumina understand Tachrian energy systems, the Vosh can navigate the Dominion's wormhole network, and the Morph can infiltrate secure facilities undetected. The alliance strikes key Dominion outposts, liberating more worlds and gathering momentum. Regional Overseer Krall, recognizing the existential threat to Tachrian rule, orders the execution of all suspected Tachrian dissidents on Earth. When Vex's closest associates are publicly terminated, the conflict becomes deeply personal for their alien ally, who now commits fully to the human cause. The captured Tachrian orbital command ship hung in synchronous orbit above the Atlantic Ocean, its crystalline structure now adorned with the hastily painted insignia of the human resistance. Inside its vast central chamber, Marcus stared in wonder at the 3 non-human representatives who had answered their interstellar transmission. To his right stood, or rather, hovered, a Lumina delegate. The crystalline being resembled a translucent human form composed entirely of interlocking geometric shards that continuously shifted, refracting light in complex patterns. Where a face might be, pulses of colored light communicated emotions and thoughts. To his left, encased in a methane-rich atmospheric chamber, a Vosh representative undulated gently. The being resembled a cloud of luminescent gas organized into a vaguely helical structure, with tendrils that manipulated the console before it with surprising dexterity. Most disconcerting was the Morph representative, who had adopted a human appearance for the meeting, almost too perfect, like a flawless mannequin. Occasional ripples across its skin revealed its true nature as its cellular structure continuously adapted. "We have monitored your rebellion with great interest," the Lumina communicated, its light patterns translated by devices Vex had helped configure. "For 3 centuries, my people have been harvested for our crystalline structures to build Tachrian vessels." The Vosh's translator converted its gaseous vibrations into words. "The Dominion imprisoned our kind for our mathematical insights. We calculate predictive algorithms that power their wormhole navigation network, working as living computers." The Morph spoke directly, its borrowed human voice eerily perfect. "Our cellular adaptability made us targets for biological experimentation. They force us to serve as infiltrators against other species, threatening to destroy our spawning pools if we refuse." Kamala, standing beside Marcus, addressed the delegates. "Despite our different biologies, we share a common enemy and a common goal: freedom. Earth has only recently broken its chains, but we offer whatever resources we have to form an alliance." "What resources could humans possibly offer?" the Morph asked, its perfect features arranged in skepticism. "Your technology is primitive compared to other subjugated species." Vex stepped forward. "Humans possess something the Dominion fears more than any weapon: unpredictable creativity. Their neural pathways form connections that our most advanced systems cannot anticipate." Marcus activated a holographic display showing the global uprising. "We developed weapons targeting Tachrian neural vulnerabilities. We disrupted their command structure by exploiting their rigid hierarchy. We adapted their own technology against them, something they never expected." The alien delegates communicated among themselves in their native forms: light patterns, gaseous vibrations, and cellular ripples. Finally, the Lumina representative moved forward. "We will share our knowledge of Tachrian energy systems. Their vessels and facilities depend on crystalline power matrices similar to our own biological structures. We can show you how to disable them permanently." The Vosh delegate pulsed with increased luminescence. "We will provide navigation coordinates for the Dominion's primary supply routes and military installations. Our mathematical models can predict optimal attack vectors with 97.3% accuracy." The morph representative's form briefly rippled before settling. "We can infiltrate any Tekrian facility, assuming appropriate biological templates. Our agents are already positioned in key Dominion installations, awaiting activation." Over the next week, the newly formed alliance developed a coordinated strategy. Earth became the central hub for planning operations, while liberated ships carried alliance forces to key Dominion outposts. The Lumina taught human engineers how to destabilize Tekrian power systems. The Vosh calculated precise jump coordinates that allowed resistance vessels to appear within Dominion security perimeters without detection. Morph infiltrators provided invaluable intelligence from within Tekrian command structures. The first joint operation targeted a Dominion supply depot in a neighboring star system. A small fleet of captured vessels, manned by mixed-species crews, disabled the facility's defenses using Lumina-designed energy disruptors. Morph agents inside deactivated security protocols, while human teams deployed sonic weapons against Tekrian defenders. The Vosh navigators ensured a perfect extraction, bringing the fleet home with minimal casualties and valuable resources. Similar operations followed across a dozen systems, liberating subjugated populations and gathering more allies. Word spread through hidden channels about the species that had successfully challenged Tekrian dominance. On Earth, Regional Overseer Kral recognized the existential threat this alliance posed. His remaining forces were consolidating in the final Tekrian stronghold in northern Asia. "The human contagion has spread beyond containment," he informed Dominion High Command in his final authenticated transmission. "Immediate purification protocols are recommended for the entire sector." Then he issued his last direct order. "Execute all suspected Tekrian dissidents. No exceptions." The public termination was broadcast on all remaining Tekrian channels, 7 junior administrators kneeling before execution drums, their bodies systematically disassembled. Among them were 3 of Vex's closest associates from the Academy, their compound eyes meeting the camera with defiant dignity in their final moments. Vex watched the transmission in silent horror, mandibles completely still, an expression of profound grief in Tekrian physiology. When the feed finally ended, he turned to Marcus and Kamala. "Until now, I have aided your resistance while hoping for reform within my own species," he said, his voice stripped of its usual measured tones. "That hope dies today. The Dominion must fall, completely and permanently." The Alliance had gained not just an ally, but a crusader who understood the enemy from within. The rebellion was no longer just about Earth's freedom. It had become a galactic struggle for liberation. The Dominion's response arrives with devastating force. Supreme Overseer Krell leads a fleet of world-breaker vessels to Earth, his orders to eradicate all resistance, even at the cost of making the planet uninhabitable. Alliance forces appear hopelessly outmatched until Marcus, Leah, and Vex discover the location of the Tekrian homeworld, Takria Prime, and its unexpectedly vulnerable power distribution network. While Kamala leads Earth's defense using guerrilla tactics and sonic weapons, Marcus assembles a strike team of specialists from each allied species. They navigate treacherous wormhole paths known only to the Vosh, employ morph disguise techniques to pass as returning Tekrian officers, and approach Takria Prime in a captured military vessel. On Earth, human fighters face overwhelming odds as Dominion forces advance methodically through major resistance strongholds. When defeat seems inevitable, unexpected salvation arrives. A significant faction of younger Tekrians, inspired by reports of human courage, turns against Supreme Overseer Krell, creating chaos within the invasion fleet. The massive Dominion warship emerged from hyperspace, its crystalline structure eclipsing the sun as it took position over Earth's northern hemisphere. Behind it came 5 more vessels of similar size, then dozens of smaller craft, until Earth's orbital space crawled with Tekrian ships. from the observation deck of the Alliance Command Center, formerly a Takrian monitoring station. Kamala watched the invasion fleet with grim resolve. Supreme Overseer Krell doesn't believe in subtle approaches, Vex observed, his compound eyes processing the tactical display. Those are world-breaker vessels. They can render a planet's surface uninhabitable within hours. Kamala's scared face hardened. Then we don't give them hours. Alliance vessels scrambled to defensive positions, but they were outnumbered 10-1. The first Dominion attack came without warning. Precision strikes against major resistance strongholds. The Brazilian command center disappeared in a flash of light. The Australian defense grid went dark moments later. They're targeting our sonic disruption networks, reported a communications officer. 90 seconds to full tactical deployment. In the midst of the chaos, Marcus, Leah, and Vex huddled over data recovered from the Takrian administrative archives. Vex had identified a critical intelligence gap, the location and defenses of Takria Prime, the species' ancestral homeworld. The Dominion guards this information jealously, Vex explained, manipulating the holographic interface. Even most Takrians don't know the exact coordinates. It's a security measure against potential rebellion. But you found it, Leia said, studying the star charts with intensity. Vex's mandibles clicked in what humans had learned was an expression of grim satisfaction. Not the location itself, but something more valuable. Their central power distribution network schematics. The entire Dominion relies on a quantum entanglement grid anchored at Takria Prime. Marcus understood immediately. If we disable the primary node, every Takrian system across the galaxy experiences catastrophic failure, Vex confirmed, including their fleet currently attacking Earth. The plan formed rapidly. While Kamala coordinated Earth's defense forces, employing guerrilla tactics against the methodical Dominion advance, Marcus assembled a strike team. The captured Takrian cruiser Morning Star, renamed by its human crew, would transport a team of specialists from each allied species to Takria Prime. The final briefing took place as Dominion forces began landing operations in Europe and Asia. We'll navigate through secondary wormhole pathways, explained Nari, the Vosh navigator, its gaseous form swirling with intense calculations. Routes known only to my kind, who mapped them while forced to create the Dominion's navigational systems. Trill, the morph specialist, demonstrated its perfect mimicry of a high-ranking Takrian officer. I will serve as mission commander when we approach Takrian space. Our cellular signatures are indistinguishable from true Takrians at standard scanning ranges. Lumina Engineer Prism projected light patterns that resolved into detailed schematics. The central power node requires precise destabilization at 7 concurrent points. Our disruptors have been calibrated accordingly. Marcus surveyed the assembled team, 12 specialists representing Earth, Lumina, Vosh, Morph, and Vex as their Takrian guide. Their expressions reflected determination despite the nearly impossible odds. If we succeed, Marcus told them, we not only save Earth but free every world under Dominion control. As the Morning Star prepared for departure, Marcus embraced his sister Leah, who would remain with Earth's defenders. Buy us enough time to reach Takria Prime, he said. We'll hold them as long as we can, she promised. The Morning Star slipped away from Earth using a precisely calculated trajectory that kept the bulk of the planet between it and the invasion fleet. Once clear, it engaged its wormhole drive, vanishing in a flash of distorted spacetime. On Earth, the situation deteriorated rapidly. Dominion ground forces established beachheads on every continent, their advanced weaponry overwhelming resistance strongholds despite the effectiveness of sonic disruptors. In Chicago, Kamala coordinated a fighting retreat, leading civilians to underground shelters, while resistance fighters deployed hit-and-run tactics that slowed but couldn't stop the Takrian advance. We've lost contact with Asian Command, reported a communications officer, her face streaked with soot from a nearby impact. European forces are falling back to secondary positions. What about South America? Kamala asked, studying the tactical display where red indicators overwhelmed the blue. Still fighting. The rainforest provides cover from orbital scanners. From his command vessel in orbit, Supreme Overseer Krell watched the methodical conquest with satisfaction. Earth had been the first serious challenge to Dominion authority in centuries, but its fall was now inevitable. His mission would serve as an example to any other world considering rebellion. "Prepare the atmospheric processors," he ordered. "Once resistance is contained, we begin environmental reconfiguration." His second-in-command hesitated. "Overseer, such measures will result in near-total human extinction." "Precisely," Krell replied. "Their creativity is too dangerous to preserve. The species will be documented and terminated." The second-in-command's compound eyes shifted in subtle patterns that would have alerted a more perceptive observer. Throughout the invasion fleet, similar expressions passed between younger Tekrian officers who had received and shared Vex's transmissions about human courage and the Alliance's successes. As Krell turned away, the second-in-command sent a burst transmission, encoded in a frequency only younger Tekrians were programmed to detect. "Prepare for synchronous action. The time approaches." The Morning Star was already navigating the treacherous wormhole pathways toward the heart of the Dominion, carrying with it the last, desperate hope for Earth's survival. Marcus's strike team infiltrates Takria Prime's central command hub, discovering the source of Tekrian dominance. An ancient artificial intelligence called the Architect that has guided their civilization for millennia. The AI has gradually stripped Takrians of empathy and creativity, prioritizing efficiency and expansion above all else. The team uploads a virus created through unprecedented collaboration between human, Lumina, Vosh, and Morph programmers, a creation so unpredictable and diverse in its logic that the Architect cannot counter it. As the Dominion network collapses, Supreme Overseer Krell's fleet loses cohesion in Earth orbit, giving resistance fighters their opportunity to turn the tide. In the aftermath, a new interstellar council forms with representatives from all liberated species, including reformed Tekrians. Humans, once dismissed as primitive, are now valued for their adaptability, creativity, and determination, qualities that saved not just their own species but countless others. Marcus becomes Earth's first ambassador to this alliance, while Kamala leads the rebuilding of human civilization with ethically applied advanced technology. A new era dawns where diversity of thought and biology becomes the galaxy's greatest strength, with humanity helping ensure no species ever again achieves the dangerous level of control the Tekrians once wielded. Takria Prime hung in space like a perfect geometric sculpture, its continents arranged in precise patterns that no natural process could have created. The Morning Star emerged from its final wormhole jump at the edge of the system, its systems temporarily offline to avoid detection. "Even the planet has been engineered," Vex observed, his voice hushed with a mixture of awe and shame. "Nothing here is left to natural processes. We're registering minimal defenses," reported Trill, the morph officer whose cellular structure now perfectly mimicked a Tekrian commander. "They never expected anyone to find this place, let alone reach it." Marcus studied the tactical display. "Their confidence will be their downfall." The approach went exactly as planned. Trill transmitted the authentication codes Vex had provided, and the Morning Star was directed to a docking port on the massive orbital structure that surrounded the planet like a crystalline web. Strike team members moved through the facility with practiced coordination, morphs disguised as Tekrian officers, leading small groups designated as inspection teams, their true species concealed within modified environmental suits. They reached the central core without raising alarms, but what they found there left even Vex speechless. The chamber stretched for kilometers in every direction, a perfect sphere filled with crystalline structures that pulsed with light and energy. At the center hovered a geometric form of impossible complexity, constantly shifting yet maintaining perfect symmetry. "The Architect," Vex whispered, mandibles trembling. "The intelligence that guided our evolution for 20,000 years." As they watched, Tecrian technicians approached the structure in reverent procession, connecting directly to smaller nodes that extended from the central mass. Their bodies jerked as information flowed into them before they disconnected and moved with new purpose. It's not just guiding them, Marcus realized. It's programming them, overriding individual thought. Prism, the Lumina engineer, projected light patterns that formed into analysis graphs. The structure extends throughout the planet. It's integrated with every Tecrian from birth. The neural vulnerability we've been exploiting is actually a design flaw in the architect's programming. The team moved to a secondary control node, where Neri, the Vosh navigator, interfaced with the system. Its gaseous form vibrated with concentrated calculation. The architect operates on pure logical efficiency, Neri reported. It has optimized Tecrian society by systematically removing what it deemed inefficient: creativity, empathy, individual variation. It sees these as chaos that impedes perfect order. That's why it fears humans, Marcus said, understanding dawning. Our creativity represents everything it has tried to eliminate. The team worked swiftly to implement their plan. The virus they uploaded had been created through unprecedented collaboration, human intuitive leaps, Lumina crystalline logic structures, Vosh mathematical precision, and Morph adaptive algorithms. It contained no single pattern the architect could identify and neutralize, instead constantly shifting between approaches like a living entity. At first, nothing happened. Then ripples of distortion spread through the architect's geometric perfection. The pulsing light faltered, became erratic. Throughout the chamber, Tecrian technicians froze in confusion as the constant guidance they had always known suddenly went silent. It's working, Vex confirmed, monitoring a portable scanner. The virus is propagating through the entire network. On Earth, the effect was immediate and dramatic. Supreme Overseer Krell was mid-command when his neural connection to the architect severed. Around him, the command bridge erupted in confusion as officers lost their link to the centralized intelligence that had coordinated their every action. "What is happening?" Krell demanded, his mandibles clicking furiously. His second-in-command, Nexer, stepped forward. "Liberation," she answered, and gave the signal. Throughout the invasion fleet, younger Tecrians who had been inspired by Vex's transmissions about the Alliance took control of key systems. Ship after ship broke formation, weapons powering down. "This is treason." Krell rage. "The architect will." "The architect is silent," Nexar interrupted. "For the first time in our history, Tecrians must think for ourselves." On the ground, Kamala and the resistance forces watched in astonishment as Dominion troops suddenly stopped advancing. Some stood immobile, paralyzed by uncertainty without central direction. Others began actively assisting humans, explaining they had never agreed with the invasion, but had been compelled to obey. 3 days later, representatives from across the galaxy convened aboard a neutral vessel in Earth orbit. Humans, Lumina, Vosh, Morph, and reformed Tecrians gathered to discuss the future of their shared interstellar community. "The architect has been contained but not destroyed," Vex reported. "It represents thousands of years of accumulated knowledge that could benefit all species if properly managed. With proper safeguards," added Marcus, who had returned from Takria Prime to a hero's welcome. The new council's first act was to formally dismantle the Dominion, replacing it with an alliance structure where each species maintained independence while sharing technology, resources, and protection. Kamala was chosen to lead Earth's reconstruction efforts, applying advanced technology with ethical considerations paramount. Marcus accepted the role of Earth's first ambassador to this new interstellar community. Standing at the observation window of the council chamber, he watched the sunrise over his homeworld, a planet that had come perilously close to destruction, but now stood at the dawn of an unprecedented era. "Humans were nearly eradicated because the architect feared our creativity," he told Vex, who stood beside him. "Now that same quality will help ensure no species ever again achieves the kind of control the Dominion wielded." As ships of every allied species moved freely through Earth's orbit, Marcus reflected on humanity's journey from conquered to liberators. The stars, once distant and unreachable, now represented not just possibility but partnership, a future where diversity of thought and biology became the galaxy's greatest strength.